Hey there, this is Teagarden with episode 58 of the Unveiled podcast. And I'm continuing in my series on the danger zones to look out for in marriage. Those are the subtle things that can end up causing disunity between you and your husband. So, do you ever wonder why you don't feel close to your husband anymore? Have you drifted apart? When I was a child growing up in Florida, we used to occasionally go to the beach, and my parents would let me and my friends play in the water while they sat on the beach and watched us. And they would always tell us to make sure we stayed right in front of them. Keep your eye on our blanket. Well, after a while of playing around, I would look up to check to see where my parents were, make sure they were still in front of me, and they wouldn't be there. And I would frantically look up and down the beach to see where they were and find out they were now 6 or 7 blankets down from us. Somehow, in the midst of playing, we would drift down the beach from them with the current. And I promise you, we never intentionally moved, but the current somehow carried us away from my parents without us even realizing it. Well, this is similar to how people drift apart in marriage. Had my parents been in the water with me, we would have drifted down the beach together. And sometimes they were, and sometimes we did. But by each of us doing our own thing, we drifted apart. And this is what happens with married couples all the time. It can be getting wrapped up in their own careers, working long hours that can cause it. Or maybe, like I mentioned last week, moms get wrapped up in the kids and the men may be working or traveling a lot. Sometimes it's just a desire to do your own thing, your own hobbies, your own friends, your own activities that can cause a slow drift. Closeness is integral to a healthy marriage. You feel it in your heart when you're not close anymore. And most couples don't know how they got there. They just know they don't feel close. But it's usually from a lack of spending quality time together. Friendships need time together. Relationships need time together. And in our busy culture, it's really easy to drift apart. Closeness requires intentionality. Willard Harvey is a marriage expert, and he says that married couples should spend at least 15 hours a week in undivided attention with each other for the best marriage relationship. Wow, 15 hours. I'll admit that Grant and I aren't meeting that in our current season of life. But I will say that when we're on vacation together, I feel a lot closer to him. It stands to reason that the more time you spend together, the closer you'll be. So evaluate how many things do you do together. It's certainly okay for you to have time with girlfriends or for him to have guy time, but it should be limited. Evaluate if you spend more relaxed time with your pals each week than you do with your spouse. You may have different hobbies, but you really need to have some shared hobbies or spend time enjoying each other's hobby. I used to scrapbook with my girlfriends, but then I would come home and ask Grant to sit on the couch and look at all the pages I had put together, and he enjoyed sharing the memories with me. Grant enjoys us running errands together. Now, I don't think about that so much, but it is good for us because we have time together and we end up talking in the car about a wide range of topics that we probably otherwise wouldn't have had time to discuss. And we end up with shared experiences. We may see some plants at the store and decide together that we want to buy them and plant them in the garden. Closeness can't develop if you're not together, obviously. Our current culture tends to value independence. And there are definitely positives to being able to take care of yourself and should the need arise, but it can go too far and cause disunity in your marriage. God meant us to be dependent on Him and on each other. He said in the very beginning that it is not good for man to be alone. Now, if you find yourself alone, God is always with you, and He will send you friends and family in your time of need. But if you have a husband, He wants you to be together, to be one. For some couples, as they start to argue more, they find, it's just more peaceful to stay out of reach of each other's way and do their own thing. It's a great temptation to do that. That may be a short-term solution, but it's a long-term death knell. Many couples even stop sleeping in the same room. And if this describes your relationship, there is hope. Not sleeping together and not wanting to spend time together is a red flag that it's time to make changes and get help if necessary. Start spending time together doing something that won't cause arguments, or agree not to argue while doing it. It may be a walk where you don't talk. Find ways to spend quality time together, even if it's little at first. Eat meals together, pray together, make love in a slow, enjoyable, mutually satisfying way. Run errands together, go away together, start a new hobby, or rekindle an old one. Now, if all of this seems absolutely impossible, I recommend examining your heart for resentment and letting it go. You can listen to episode 48 for more on resentment. Maybe you haven't brought up this feeling with your husband, but it's likely that he's feeling the same way. Suggest you prioritize time together and put it on the calendar. During one especially busy season, we told the kids that Monday evenings after dinner were mom and dad time, and they were old enough to not be watched every minute. We were still in the house, but they weren't to interrupt us unless it was an emergency. Grant and I would go into our bedroom and spend the evening talking and enjoying each other. It was the only way we could figure out how to get more time, just the two of us. You'd be surprised how quickly you can feel close again just by prioritizing time together. As the saying goes, you're better together. Ecclesiastes 4:9-11. I love these verses. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. 3 strands. If you and your husband are united with God in the center, you will be strong indeed and stand the tests of life that come at you. All marriages can experience drift during busy seasons. The important thing is simply to recognize it when it starts and intentionally work on closeness and a shared life. Oneness is your goal. It's not a smothering type of thing or a prison. It's more like synergy. 2 things that when combined are greater than the sum of the parts. This week, evaluate your independent activities. Take assessment of your closeness with your husband. If you're feeling the drift, work together to walk towards one another. Spend more time together. Talk more. Share more. And entwine your hearts together once more. So I encourage you, go enjoy each other. Do some fun holiday traditions together or make new ones. Think creatively. It may seem awkward at first, but the more time you spend together, the easier and the better it will be. I'm rooting for you. I hope this episode has been helpful. If so, please share it with others. If you'd like to check out our live marriage workshops, we'll be hosting one via Zoom this Thursday, December 8th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And you can email me at ann@synergiamm.com. That's ANNE at SYNERGIAMM.com for more information about how to join us for free. Have a wonderful Christmas with your family. Remember, you are loved, you are beautiful. Go enjoy.